evening, and we are back, and we are so glad and delighted to be here this evening. I'm so happy that this is happening again today, and I'm particularly excited about the richness of the conversation that we'll be having today. I'm really looking forward to tonight's conversation. And so I want to thank everyone who's been able to come on board. I can see you, Pastor Tunde. Thank you for always being my one of the very first persons to log on and to tune in, at the show. I'm really grateful for you, sir. So I'm just so happy that you can join us tonight. God has made this happen. This is Chat with PMK, Chat with PMK. And I'm really excited about tonight's conversation. Before I let the cat out of the bag, let's give a couple of more minutes for people to join. Let's see more people join. And as you're joining, please tell us where you're joining us from. I don't want to assume in case of the people that will be joining us for the first time. So yes, this has become a tradition. When you come on board, when you log in, when you tune in, just put in the comment section where you're joining us from. If this is your first time of joining, let us know. And if you have any expectations tonight as well, please tune in and chat it in the comment box and let us know. So I have very first person here. I have Pastor Tunde already in the house tonight. It's nice to have you here, sir. I have my own sister, Biodun Kehinde, Biodun, formerly Biodun Adekunle, now Biodun Kehinde, on the show tonight. Thank you for joining. Let's keep the comments coming as more people are joining. Thank you for being part of Chat with PMK. God has prepared his vessel for a very rich conversation tonight. And I'm excited. I'm really excited about what is going to happen today in this conversation. Thank you for joining us all the way from Ondo State. Yes, we have my sister joining all the way from Canada. Canada is already represented here tonight, and I'm so happy we are on course tonight. Fantastic. Welcome, my dear sister. Welcome all the way from Ugbomoso. Thank you for being part of this show tonight. I'm so glad that you can join us as we look forward to a very rich conversation tonight. A very enriching conversation tonight. If this is your first time of joining, please, or you're just tuning into the show, let us know your name, where you're joining us from, and then let's take it a step further. Let's have your expectation tonight. Your expectation tonight. Let's keep it coming. Fantastic. Let's keep the comments coming tonight. Thank you for joining. This is Chat with PMK, and we are on episode 9. We are on episode 9. Keep the comments coming. I'm excited to have you on the show tonight. God has prepared a vessel that'll be having a conversation together with us tonight on the show. So let's take it a step further. Please reach out to someone, share the link with someone, tag someone, put it on your status, send it to your friends, to your contacts, to the groups you belong to, and say, we are live tonight. We are live tonight. Thank you, Sister Tolanin, for being here. We are so glad to have you on the show tonight. Thank you very much. Let us know where you're joining us from and what is your expectation tonight on the show. Let us know what your expectation is tonight on the show. Let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. I need more comments. I need more comments tonight. I need more people to tell us where they're joining us from. If this is your first time on the show, please indicate very quickly if this is your first time, and then tell us where you're joining us from, and then what is your expectation tonight? What is your expectation tonight? Let's keep the comments coming. Invite someone, share with your friends, put it on your WhatsApp status, put it on your social media, share with the groups you belong to, your broadcast list. Let's get many people involved in this conversation tonight, first of all, and let's get as many people to benefit to learn tonight from these conversations. Thank you very much for doing that for the Lord, and thank you for being part of the show tonight. If this is your first time of joining this show, this is Chat with PMK. This is Chat with PMK, and Chat with PMK is a virtual Christian show, and we have the mandate to promote faith-based conversations or discussions, to educate our viewers, to foster community, to address contemporary and controversial issues, to encourage engagement, to support personal growth, and to engage our guests and audience with thought-provoking conversations. That is our mandate here. We are a Christian virtual show, and our mandate is to promote faith-based conversation. So if you're joining us for the first time, please indicate and let us welcome you very quickly. Thank you, Debbie, Home of Craft, for being part of the show tonight. Again, as you're joining, please invite other people, tag other people, share the link with other people so they can also be part of this conversation tonight. Thank you once again for joining. And so tonight I have a very interesting guest and a very dear sister of mine who will be sharing the stage with me very shortly. I've known this sister since I think 2018, this woman of God since 2018, and I will be introducing her very soon. But before we do that, let us welcome ourselves some more. Let's spend the next 2 minutes to welcome ourselves some more. While we are doing that, for those of us already in the house, in the space, let us tell us what are your expectations? What is your expectation for joining tonight? Whatever it is, just share. Or I want to know more about what a woman wants in marriage, or I want to know how to manage my needs and expectations in marriage. I want to have better understanding as a man. I want to be able to counsel better. Whatever your expectation is, please drop it in the comment section and let us have you make your comment. Fantastic. Thank you, Sister Titi Lokwe Osafile, for being here. Thank you, Sister Moradeke Hanyogbari, for being here. Wherever you are, chat us in the comment section where you're joining us from. If this is your first time for being here, please share with us and let us know. And thank you so much, my dear sister Akinwande Tolulokwe. Thank you for being part of the show tonight. Wherever you are, I hope that you're well settled in your seat with your juice, coffee, tea, water, whatever it is, you will neatly and nicely settled in your sitting room, living room, in your bedroom, in your vehicle, in your office, wherever you are, in your shop, and you have your cup, well at your reach for you to quench your thirst and to nicely relax as we have this conversation. I have my cups here as always with my inscription, Chat with PMK. And so I'm ready for tonight's conversation. Let's do that one more minute and then we will progress or proceed as I bring my guest to the stage tonight. Fantastic tonight. I'm excited about what's the richness of this conversation. You are welcome on board, ma'am. Good evening, and you are very much welcome, Reverend Mrs. Tinoye Johnson. Let our
Thank,
viewers hear your voice before I introduce you properly.
thank you.
Your audio,
Good
fantastic.
evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's a great privilege and okay. I think my audio is there.
We can
You can
hear
hear me.
you. Comment and let us know we can hear you. Hello, ma'am. Yes, your network is a
Can I
bit
be heard?
unstable. Yes, but we can hear you now. You went off for a bit, but you're
Hello?
back now. Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you. We can hear you very clearly. Can you hear me, ma'am? The network must hear God's voice tonight. I guess the network is really, the devil is scared of where this conversation is going to go tonight. But
Hey,
whether the devil likes it or not, we're going to have a rich conversation. We're going to have a rich conversation that will be a blessing to our lives and a blessing to many more people to come. You're welcome. Welcome, my dear Bukola James. Welcome and good to have you here. Fantastic.
good
Fantastic.
evening, everybody.
Good evening. Welcome, ma'am. We can hear you now.
You can
Can
hear
you
me?
hear me clearly?
Can you hear me? Okay. Good
Yes, we
evening.
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Yes, I can. Yes, I
Fantastic.
can.
Fantastic. Welcome, ma. So I'm going to introduce you very quickly so that we
Amen.
can
Oh,
we can start this conversation running, right? So today I'm privileged to have my dear friend and ministry fellow minister of the gospel, fellow laborer of
right.
in Christ. I'm here and I'm very glad to introduce her, so we can take this conversation going. Um, while we're trying to settle in for her to settle in and to get a hold or a hang over our network, I'm going to ask the men in the house. We're going to do a quick exercise in 1 minute. 1 minute before I introduce our guest speaker tonight, our guest,
Thank you.
on the show tonight. I'm
I
going to ask
can.
the men in
Yes,
the
I can.
house. Yeah, I'm going to ask the men in the house very quickly to do a little exercise. And the exercise you're going to do is you're going to put in the comment section
Can you hear
just
me?
one thing. We can hear you, ma. I will get back to you shortly. We can hear you very clearly. So the men in the house, please put in the comment section, what do you think a woman needs in the marriage? What do you think a woman needs in a marriage? Just like we did during when we had the part one of this conversation, when we looked at what men want in a marriage. So let's ask ourselves, let the men respond now. What do you think a woman needs in the marriage? So Pastor Tunde and the likes and the men in the house, this question is for you. Olushola Olawale, good evening. You're welcome. Please let us know, what do you think a man needs in a
Yes,
marriage?
clearly.
What do you think a man needs in a marriage?
Thank
Audience, let's
you.
have you respond very quickly. What do
It's
you
a
think a
great
man?
privilege to be here tonight.
All right. Yes, the response is coming. Olushola says security. Pastor Tunde is saying affection. Fantastic. Let's keep it coming. I need two more response and then we will move on. Um, Two more responses and then we will move on. From the men in the house, uh, Mr. Ajao Ayobami, what do you think a woman needs in a marriage? Let's hear your point of view tonight. I need the men in the house to answer me tonight. So we've heard security, we've heard affection. So let's hear one or two more questions, one or two more responses, and then we will move on from there. Right, where we're waiting. Hopefully, the men will respond to this question. So we're going to move on. Yeah, Mr. Ayobami says protection. Fantastic protection. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on very quickly. Reverend Mrs., we have lost your video, but I'm hearing you very faintly. Your network is a bit unstable. If it's possible to fix it, if not, we will move on and trust the Lord to make this better. Thank you. David says, security, love, and support. Security, love, and support. Welcome back, ma'am. We can see you now. Your video is back, and we hope that your audio too will be fantastic. Thank you very much. So today I have a guest in the house on the show with me. Her name is Reverend Mrs. Tinuoye Johnson. Reverend Mrs. Tinoye Johnson was privileged and graced to obey the call of God into full-time ministry, full-time Christian ministry as a single lady when she was opportune to pastor churches and at the same time involved in itinerary ministry, especially to single ladies and youth in general. She, alongside her husband, Pastor Ademola Oye Johnson, for over 2 decades have been hosting distinguished couples gathering across Nigeria. We lost past Reverend Mrs., but I'm believing God that before I finish reading her profile, she would be back. So across Nigeria, they also run singles of purpose. They run single of purpose to get singles adequately prepared for a satisfying marriage. They both pastor the Great Family Church in Lagos. She hosts the Princess for Matured Single Lady, the Pastor's Wife Forum, a forum for fellowship and mentorship for women honored to be married to men who labor on the altar. Her recent apostolic assignment is Women on Assignment, an intercessory teaching and revival meetings to set up women to discover and fulfill their God given assignment against all odds. Pastor Tinu is a wife, a mother, an author, a teacher, an evangelist, a coach, a certified marriage counselor, a mentor, and a regular and sought after speaker in conferences and conventions. Without wasting time, ladies and gentlemen, tonight let us welcome to the show with me Reverend Mrs. Sinuoye Johnson. You are very much welcome on the show, ma. You are welcome on the show, ma. Can you hear me very clearly? Your audio, we cannot hear you. Your audio is not coming up. Can you hear me, madam? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The network must hear God's voice tonight. All right. While we are waiting for our guest minister or our guest on the show to fix our network, let's take this conversation a bit further. Once she's back, we will get back to her. But to keep the show going, now we've heard from the perspective of the men about what they think a woman needs in a marriage or a woman wants in a marriage. We've heard things like security, things like protection, things like provision, and so on and so forth. So, women in the house, let's do this favor. Let's type in the comment section just one thing per person. What do you want in a marriage as a woman, as a lady or a woman, whether you're single, whether you're married? Please let us know what you want in a marriage. What do you want as a woman in a marriage? Let's have that very quickly. The answer may surprise our men tonight. Fantastic. Let's keep the conversation going while we wait for our guest minister to hear to be here. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, my dear heritage, poetry of trust. Respect. Respect. Very true. A woman wants respect. Fantastic. Fantastic. Oh, thank you. Another person says a woman wants communication. Fantastic. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We have another person says a woman wants support. A woman wants support. Keep it going. Keep it going. Let's keep it going. What else does a woman want in a marriage? What else that a woman wants in a marriage? Do we have one or two more people to respond? Yes, someone says affection. Fantastic. Affection. A woman wants affection. Yes, a woman wants attention. Fantastic. Attention. Attention, affirmation. Fantastic. I hope the men are seeing this tonight. You see, none of us have mentioned anything about security, about protection. So we're talking of affection. We're talking of respect. We're talking of affection. Welcome back, Reverend Mrs. Can you hear us now?
Thank you, ma. Yes, I can hear
Fantastic.
you. But can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you very clearly.
but
We can
my
hear you.
my video is not coming on.
No, your video is
Okay.
up. We can see you.
Thank you,
Everything
ma.
is fine. You're welcome. We're welcome. So we've
I,
had
I
some
can't I
interesting
can't see myself.
response tonight, and we are very glad to welcome you to the
Okay.
show. We are very glad to welcome you to the show. So
Thank you
the
very
men have spoken what they
much.
think a woman wants in a marriage, right? Most of them are saying things like protection, security, and so on. And the women as also they are also speaking tonight, and we are having some very interesting revelation tonight about what a woman wants. I'm seeing attention, respect, affection. I'm seeing involvement in decision making. I'm seeing things like a listening ear. These are amazing revelations tonight, and I really do hope that the men are taking notes. So if you're married to someone and you think all she wants is a protection or security, you may be in for a rude shock tonight. So, Ma, let's take this conversation going because we're already 20 minutes into the show. We have just 40 minutes left to round off. So, my very first question to you would be that do you think there is a difference between what a woman wants in a marriage and what a man wants in a marriage? Is there a difference between what a man wants in a marriage and what a woman wants in a marriage? Go ahead, ma.
Okay.
No,
Got it.
your
Thank you
audio,
so
ma.
much, ma, for having
Yes.
me one more time.
Go ahead. We can hear you
You
now.
can hear me.
Yes.
I didn't touch it though. You can hear me now.
We can. Go
Definitely,
ahead.
there is a difference. I can't even see myself.
We can see you. Don't worry. We can see you. Just continue, ma. Hello, can you hear me? The devil is scared of what we are about to discover tonight, and he has lost this battle. Yeah. So back to the audience, let's do this together while we hope that our guests will sort out our network issues very soon. And we're praying that the hands of God will be upon our devices and she will be restored very soon. So now we've seen a lot of revelations from the women: respect, communication, affection, attention, affirmation, cordiality, involvement in decision making, listening here, and cordial communication, and so on and so forth. This is an indication that, contrary to what the men think, what the women want in a marriage is different. A lot of men believe, they usually believe and use their own thinking or their own expectation in marriage to understand what they think a woman wants in marriage. And when there are no agreements or congruence in terms of what we are pursuing as couples, whether, for example, I as a woman, I need attention, and my husband believes what I need is security. You see that there will be a misalignment in our goals, because what my husband will be pursuing and putting effort in will be finding ways to ensure that I'm secured. But because what I'm looking for is attention, there won't be there won't be satisfaction for me, because I would not be getting what I need in that relationship. So conversations like these are very, very important that we have them, so that each of us or both of us in a marriage, we're on the same page. Reverend Mrs., you're welcome. Can you hear me now? We are still not hearing now. Yes, welcome, ma. Just go ahead with the response, ma.
It is well, oh, it is well in Jesus'
Amen.
name. Oh, thank you, ma. It is well. Oh,
Continue,
okay.
ma.
Definitely, there is a whole world of difference between what we expect, because the way the man is wired is different from the, to use this illustration from the beginning. Somebody said that the way men think is different from the way women think. Somebody said that it's like when men are thinking, it's like men have these invisible boxes, that men think in boxes. When a man wants to think about his finance, there is an invisible box. When a man wants to think about sex, there is an invisible box. And when he wants to think about anything, it's like his thinking is compartmentalized. And it was said also that, interestingly, there is a particular box that men have in their thinking pattern, and it is called the nothing box. But women, we don't think in boxes. Thank God we are in Nigeria and we are familiar with the electricity, and especially with the power, the electricity poles. And you can see the the wire connecting power to different houses. And I wouldn't know whether you have been to certain environments that when you look at the electricity pole, you can see a lot of interconnectivity of wire. Some people are just tapping, they are just tapping and just tapping. So that women think like that. Women don't think, in compartments, so to speak. And that is why when something happens to a woman, it can affect every other aspect of our life. So we are wired differently. And that is the amazing thing about marriage, the beautiful thing about marriage, that definitely we are going to expect, you know, our expectation is going to be different. Okay, let me from that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that response. So basically, what we're saying is that we've established the fact from the survey we conducted through the comment section and from what our guests have said, that what a woman needs or wants in a marriage is definitely different from what a man wants in a marriage. And this is so basically because of the way we are wired. Everybody's wired differently. Each of the gender has different wiring
Mm,
basically. So my next question
that's
now that we've established the fact that what a woman wants in a marriage is different from what a man wants in a marriage, let me ask you, from your perspective or from your interaction with women and women ministry, what would you say are the top three um, expectations of or things that a woman wants in a marriage? What are the top three
okay.
things that you think a woman wants in a marriage?
I guess, thank you, ma. Like somebody has mentioned, interestingly, women desire security. And when you're talking about security, you are talking about a sense of safety. I think it's because the femininity in us, as is like when the Bible talks about she's a weaker vessel. When you're talking about weaker vessel, it's not talking about something that can maybe okay, let me still permit me to still use the at this particular point. It's because of the way we are wired. We are emotional. They are emotional. We are tender, and we would love to be treated with that tender touch. And so when we are going into marriage, when we are going to a relationship, we are conscious whether there will be certainty, whether there will be security, whether I will not be hurt. Because when a woman loves, she truly loves. My husband will always say something. When a woman really loves a wife, really loves her husband, she can do anything to support that man. If it will take us even selling our property, selling like my husband will say, like even selling her underwear, if it's possible for her to do so, she's going to do that to support the man she loves. And when she's coming with such a heart, with such a sacrifice, she's also careful if she's not going to get hurt, if she's not going to be taken advantage of, if she's not going to regret that decision. So women, we look for security, we want safety. Let come to your life and sure I'm not going to be ready. So women really want security. And another thing that women want marriage.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. Reverend Mrs. Your network is misbehaving again. Your network is misbehaving again. We can't hear you. All right. While we are waiting for her to get back, the network is not audible. We can't hear her clearly. Reverend Mrs., can you hear me now? Your audio is gone. Your audio is gone. You may want to log out and log back in, ma. So while we're waiting for her to do that, let's take this conversation further. Um, from what she has said, she said women need security. But audience, I want us to interrogate this assertion very well. Why we're expecting her to be back, and I'm going to get back to her very soon. Would we say that requirement or the expectation in the society that feels that women need security as one of their topmost need, would we say that need or that expectation has evolved over time? Would we say that expectation has evolved over time? That nowadays, security is not at the top of a woman's needs anymore? Would we do you think that is true for women in the house? While we're waiting for Reverend Mrs. to get back. Reverend Mrs., welcome. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, so before you came, I was
Can you hear me,
asking,
ma?
yes, I was asking. So you've spoken about security. What is the next two um needs of a woman? Let's do this very quickly in 1 minute so we can address other issues here.
Trust. The woman wants trust. The woman wants the man that she can trust. And the third thing that every woman desire in marriage is support. If I'm a wife, I am your helpmate. I'm coming to your life as a wife. I will also appreciate you to also support, to be a support system unto me. So women desire trust. They want men that they can trust, that they can rely upon. There are some times that you will see some women, they will be boasting and saying something like, I trust my husband. I trust my husband. So women really want husbands and men that can be trusted.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Can you
much,
hear
Reverend
me?
Mrs. Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you. Thank you very much. So, from what you have said just before you came back online, I was saying, can you hear me?
Did you hear me, ma?
Yes, we heard you. We heard you very clearly. Thank you, ma. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
So,
Okay, ma.
before you got back online, we were saying that, I was saying that before
Yes,
we
I can.
brought you
Yes,
on
I can.
stage, we did a little exercise, right? And asked women to tell us what they want in a marriage. And it's amazing that none of the women mentioned anything about security. Yes, I could see support, I could see involvement in decision making as part of their requirement. So, my question would be that could we say that based on how the society has evolved and women has evolved in our day, would you say there's also an evolvement of what a woman wants in a marriage? Could it be that security is no longer a top three need of a woman anymore? Because what we have here, we're seeing affection, we're seeing attention, I'm seeing respect, I'm seeing cordiality, I'm seeing affirmation, and so on and so forth. None of our women mentioned security. Yes, the men said so, but none of the women did so. So, would you think there is what a woman needs today has evolved from what it used to be?
To a certain extent, it is possible. But at the same time, I want us to realize also when you are talking about security, security is a foundational issue. That it's just like when you're building, the foundation is not seen, but you can see, you can see the structure, but the foundation is there hidden. So because of the situation that we are facing today, because of the prevailing challenges and because women also we have been challenged to really come up, to really build our lives, to really stay strong. So there could be that tendency, permit me to use that. I don't want to use the word facade, but whether we like it or not, the woman, it is inhibit in the woman. When we're talking about security, it's not just about financial security. Security talks about assurance that I'm in this marriage, do I have the assurance? But on the other side, too, just like you said, because today there is a kind of that involvement from the perspective of if this situation, if this marriage is not working, I can get out. There could be that has affected us, that one way or the other, security might not be on the top of our list. But it's very important because now, in those days, before a woman considered divorce, it will take a long period of time. She will consider a lot of things. What will people say because of her children, because of everything. But today's wife is ready to opt out at any slight provocation or anything that can happen. You can come to a point and say, okay, because of unreconcilable differences, you can get out. So that could also affect us. But basically, we want security. But today, it just like you said, probably we have developed a thick skin. And to me, it can be like before school. When you are trying to it's like stand as so that we won't get hurt. So we are ready for anything. I believe that will be one of the reasons that has affected,
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. So I've interacted with a few women, I mean, quite a number of women. And one of the things they would say, at least some of the women who would complain about, is their husband's involvement in, for example, spiritual leadership. Like, we don't have family prayer. He doesn't call us together for devotion, family devotion. He doesn't take the bull by the horn as the spiritual leader of the home. Do you think spiritual leadership is a very important need of a Christian woman in the home?
spiritual leadership is something that is very, very important. Because of the role that God expects the man to play, and because of order. God is God of order. And man is basically spirit who has a soul and lives in the body. The spiritual life especially as a Christian husband, I believe that the man should take the spiritual leadership of his home, because the man is a priest. I feel because of the way women we are doing wired, because of our passion, because of our, you know, passion for the things of God, our emotion. When a woman, you know, gets in a relationship with God and she loves the Lord, she gives everything to Him. And I think because this scripture also sign that the woman, a wise woman, Proverbs 13 verse 1, a wise woman builds her own house. They have been doing everything spiritually. Even today, you see a lot of women, taking the financial responsibility of the family. And some men, because they have so-called spiritually zealous wives, they just relax spiritually. I even had one man was having a conversation with some of his friends, and he was boasting about his wife. And what was he saying? And he was boasting seriously that it is the prayer of his wife that was sustaining him. And he kept saying that, don't call me, my wife can pray. I'm secure. When I go out, I just go out. I know my wife is praying. My wife can pray. It is good to have a wife that is praying, a wife that is spiritual, but the man should know that God expects him to take the spiritual leadership of his family. This is important, and this is a challenge that we are facing today. But I'm praying that God will help our men to really rise up to responsibility. I'm sorry to say this. It's so amazing that I even have pastors that do not even lead family in their own house, in their own families. They can go outside there, pray for people. I've had to deal with some pastors' wives that confide in me that when they are doing family order, the man won't mind them, but he's busy to help other people fight their battles. To me, this is an error, and not right. And this sort
Thank you, ma.
needs to
Your audio
work
is
on make
cracking
sure rise
again.
up to spiritual leadership.
Your audio is cracking again, and it's not very clear. Let's see whether we can get back again. Okay. Reverend Mrs., can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It's still cracking. Maybe you need to log out again and log back in.
I hear you. I can hear you.
Your audio is not clear. It's cracking. It's doing. It's have this humming sound. So while we are waiting for her to get back, so we've established the fact, and this is very. The revelation tonight is very eye-opening, because I believe that you would see that for every woman that has typed in what they expect in a marriage, you would see that apart from a couple or two or three people who said attention and affection, I think the expectation of every woman in marriage, yes, it's different. And which is why it's very important for us to sit down and have these conversations. Just like when we discuss about the men's own, while we're waiting for Reverend Mrs., I want us to type in the comment section, right? The comment section, I want you to tell me in the comment section, how how do you think your spouse can understand better what your spiritual, emotional, and practical needs are in the marriage? How do you think you can understand this better? Thank you, Sister Motolani. We're going to give her that advice when she gets back. So now we've established the fact that a woman wants openness, wants attention, wants affection, wants domestic support, wants spiritual leadership, wants love and all that, wants openness. So with all these expectations, how do we ensure our husbands, right, become very familiar or have understanding of what our needs are? especially from what we have seen today, that yes, maybe what we believe, what we used to believe as the needs of a woman, right, has evolved with time. Now a woman is more empowered. A woman has financial security and all that. So for some women, financial security will not be at the top of their list, but probably things like trust, things like affection, things like domestic support may be on the top of their list. Now that we know there is variances or variation or diversity in terms of what we need as women or what we want as women in marriage, how do we effectively ensure that our husbands and us we are on the same page to understand our need better? Let's have comments on the comment section while we wait for our guests to get back on the show. How can our husband best understand our needs, whether emotional, whether spiritual, or practical needs that we need? How do we get ourselves to understand all these? While I'm waiting for the comment to come in, this woman, this man that wrote the book is Needs Her Needs, Building an Affair-Proof Marriage, William F. Harley. He mentioned top 5 needs of a woman, and I'm going to read the top 5, and I think it's in alignment with what I'm saying tonight. He says the top need of a woman is affection, followed by conversation, which is communication, honesty, openness, financial support, and family commitment. So I think this sums up all we have been discussing tonight: affection, conversation, honesty and openness, financial support, and family commitment. Family commitment will cover things like domestic support. We cover things like spiritual leadership. Thank you very much, Dr. Naboya. She says for us to be able to understand our needs, to be on the same page, whether as women or as men in the same marriage, there has to be effective communication. Just like we established when we had that conversation about the men's needs, the same thing applies to us as women. There cannot be two ways about it. If you are going to be we are going to effectively get our men to understand what is our need in marriage, there has to be effective communication. We have to sit down and discuss these things. The other time I mentioned the fact that there is a test that we can take. It's called the 5 love language test. Just Google it. You can see and take the test, for free. It's a free test. When we come together as husbands and wife and we discuss and, look at this, take this test, it opens our eyes to be able to understand from our spouse's perspective what exactly are the needs of my spouse, so that I don't begin to use what I think my needs are to pursue my spouse and to try to satisfy them. It's important that we're on the same page. And somewhat Reverend Jesuni is saying, he said communication is key to men knowing how they can meet the needs of their wives. Fantastic. I like that response. If you're going to know the needs of your wife, there are no two ways about it. We have to sit down. We have to constantly communicate. We have to constantly understand this person's perspective. There has to be a shift in our mindset. Probably what somebody has told you before, or maybe what your parents told you, or when you were being counseled when you were coming into marriage, will probably not be applicable to your wife. Each woman is unique in her own way, and you have to understand your wife's perspective. What are my needs in marriage? And I like the way William Harley put it. He said, if you're going to have an affair-proof marriage and a marriage that is very satisfying, your pursuit and your goal in that marriage should be how you can provide for the needs of your wife or your husband, how you can effectively meet the needs of your spouse. And there is another interesting perspective here. He said the root of it is for men, or for the man to be teachable. For some men, they don't know what women want. But if your spouse is teachable, you can communicate it to him by gesture and saying it verbally respectively. Fantastic, fantastic point of view. It's important that our men are teachable. They are teachable, they are willing to learn. Welcome, ma. Welcome, Reverend Mrs.
Mm.
Can you hear? Apologies for the way the network is misbehaving. The devil is just afraid. He's afraid of what God wants to say and teach
No,
tonight. But whether
I
he
just
likes
even
it or not, the 10 minutes that remains,
I
we're
just
going
try
to use
to.
it.
It is well, ma.
It is well. Sorry, welcome, ma.
I
And
just even
so
try
the
to change
question,
to change. I try to change my location.
oh, okay, okay. Hopefully it will be better. And so we are on the conversation trying to understand how we can, how men can better
Okay, ma.
understand. We're trying to understand how men can better understand the needs of their wives, whether spiritual, emotional, or physical needs. How can we get them to understand? Because obviously, some of the understanding of our men are not in total, we are not on the same page with what we women want. So, how do we get the men, the husband, to understand the needs of their spouses? Question, over to you. 1 minute
Wow.
so that we can run.
Okay. I like to really play on that word understand. The word understand is a combination of two words, under and stand. And in the literal meaning, when you're talking about understanding, you're talking about capacity and ability to see things the way they are truly are, and to be able to see things beyond the face value. And to me, for every one of us who is married, for husband to understand their wives is the ability and the capacity to be able to see what is under the stand of their wives. And there are one thing that is important. For instance, if I'm standing on something, you can see something, but you might not be able to see what is under the stand. And one thing that will help husbands to see what is under the stand of their wives, number one, is humility. Before you can see what is under, you will be willing to bend down. And that is humility. Uh, the beauty of Christianity is not in pride. When you think we have the issue with the African culture, because the African man believes that when he's humble, especially in relationship with his wives, it makes him a weak man, which is not. Saint Jesus, who left heaven, he came down here to die for us, and by so he obtained a name above every other name. So our husband must be willing to be humble, and to understand, they must be willing to spend time with their wives. It takes spending time with people to really understand, to be able to understudy. When we are spending time together, you can be able to see, okay, this is what my wife's like, this is what my wife behaves the way he or she, I mean, the way she behaves. And number three is like willingness to see. In the book of Isaiah, the Lord was rebuking the people, talking about the priest. He said, who is blind but my priest? They have eyes they cannot see. The Bible said they are blinded. It's not because they don't see, it's just because they are not willing to see. It's just because they are not
Hello, ma. Can you take off your video so that maybe that would improve the network? Let's take off the video. Okay, she's gone. Hopefully she'll be back. Your network is fluctuating again, ma, but hopefully you'll be back. Audience, please let's begin to drop our questions in the comment section so that we can address them for this last few minutes that we have. We're going to take an extra 7 to 10 minutes. Apologies to be able to cover up on the time that have been lost in the way we're trying to, resolve the audio issues. So please, I apologize. We'll just take a maximum of 10 more minutes and then we will close for the day. So we probably will have a second part of discussion so we can have a very broad perspective. Now, we're talking about, I love this perspective on the screen where the writer said the man must be teachable. And just like the speaker was saying before she went off, that men must know that in Christianity, if you want to make progress, there is need for humility. It does not matter your gender. It does not matter in relation to who we're talking about. If we're going to make progress, we need humility in our relationship. And that is how we can be teachable. And I love the illustration of Jesus Christ. The Bible says that he humbled himself. He humbled himself. He came to hurt so that he can understand from the words, from a human perspective, what it means to be human, and he came and humbled himself. The same way, if you're going to understand your spouse, your wives in particular, husband, we must be willing to listen, spend time with them, hear them, ask questions, be teachable, be willing to change and have a shift in your mindset, be willing to see things from your perspective, knowing that there are no two marriages. You are only entitled to one wife. So why don't you make it enjoyable and make it as beautiful as possible? But I want to tell that beautiful marriage, satisfying marriage takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't come by accident. It doesn't come automatically. You must be willing to put in the works and say, you know what? I want a marriage where I'm satisfying my wife and I'm meeting her needs. But how do I get to that point? You can only get there when you have those conversations, when you decided to be teachable, when you decide to be humble and humble yourself really well to understand your perspective. Welcome back, ma. I'm saying, do you want to take off your video and see whether that will improve the network? Do you want to take off your video, ma?
I'm not even seeing myself.
Oh, okay.
Should
All
I?
right.
I'm not even. Are you seeing me, ma?
Yes, we can see you. Your video is on. So just click on the video and see whether it will be off from our
I
side
can't see
so
myself.
we can have an improved network. Fantastic. So
Okay.
it's okay now. It's off now. Thank you, ma. Okay, so our
Okay.
next question, while we are waiting for the questions to roll in
Okay.
from the audience, is this. Now that we understand that one of the needs of a woman in marriage is intimacy. A woman cherishes intimacy with her husband. And I know that maybe 90% of women we love to be intimate. And when I'm talking of intimacy, I'm not talking of sexual intimacy. I'm talking of intimacy generally, with your spouse, with your husband. So how can you be able to build intimacy? How can a man, what are the practical ways in which a man can build intimacy, go into deeper emotional intimacy with their spouse, knowing that this is a very strong need for a woman in a marriage? Can you hear me, ma? All right. Hopefully, we will hear her back. So, what I'm saying, why we're talking about intimacy, is this. Intimacy is a very big need for a woman. And affection, attention, these are some of the fruits of intimacy, right? And so I remember when we had a conversation about intimacy in marriage, emotional intimacy in marriage, one of the things we said is that there are practical steps that we can take. And so I want to encourage you, please head back to my YouTube channel and watch that video on emotional intimacy that we had earlier in the episode. I think it's about maybe the second or third episode. So if you need more information on how you can build intimacy, intimacy is a very strong need of a woman. From it comes affection, from it comes attention, and some other things. How you can build intimacy, go back to that video, watch that video on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and then you will get to have practical steps on how a woman and how a man can build emotional intimacy in marriage. Now, there's a question here. I'm not sure if Reverend Mrs. is hearing me, but the question is, What does a woman desire the most in marriage? What does a woman desire the most in marriage? I think this is I think this will vary according to each woman. Some women at the top of their list might be financial security. For some women, at the top of their need might be domestic support. Some women at the top of their need might be conversation, having someone, a partner they can regularly converse in, especially depending on the background. For example, if a woman grew up to be an only child, is coming into a marriage and she's looking at a marriage where he can emotional connection and conversation with the spouse. So depending on each woman, we cannot have a straight jacket answer and say this is what a woman desire most in a marriage. You have to discuss with your spouse to know, okay, my spouse, what are your top needs in this marriage? So you have given me 5 needs now. What is your top needs? What do you desire the most? To some people, it might be affection. To some people, it might be attention. So depending on the background, on their exposure, how they grow up, depends on what we be one of the factors that will determine what a woman is looking for in a marriage. So you have to engage, you have to discuss, you have to converse, you have to communicate with your spouse, and then you can discuss what it is. Another question is it possible for all women to have the same wants in marriage? No, I don't think so. Yeah, we can have similar needs. There is um what do I call it? A compendium of needs that women want. So we can say that there are top 7 needs that women want in a marriage. And out of those 7 needs, you can be sure that 3 of them will belong to a woman. So it may not be the same order, but out of those 7, you will always find 3 belonging to each woman. So things like we have mentioned them, we've talked about affection, we've talked about communication, we've talked about conversation, honesty, which speak to trust. We've talked about openness. We've talked about financial support and family commitment. So out of all these 5 or 6, you can say that a woman would always have their needs met if those 7 can be looked at and worked on by a man in marriage. Thank you very much. So it's not possible for all women to have the same needs because we are different. Even twins, they have different characteristics, different expectations, different requirements in marriage. Reverend Mrs., are you back? I guess she's not back. So basically, those are some of the things we need to have and discuss in our marriages. Conversations must be had. Conversations must be discussed for us to be able. Reverend Mrs., you're welcome. Can you hear me now?
Thank you, ma. You're welcome. Can you hear me now? Yes, I can hear you.
All right. You're welcome. Apologies for all the. So we have 7 more minutes to round off, and we can quickly take 1 or 2 more questions. So somebody has asked a question to know whether it's possible to have for all women to have the same needs, and we've established the fact that no, it's not possible because no 2 women is the same. Do you have a thought about that, ma?
Definitely, we have different love language. We have different love languages. That is why you can see somebody when a woman, when certain women when they are being presented with a bouquet of flower, she rejoices, she's excited. But you can't try with another woman. She does not, that's not what she wants. So we are different based on our background, based on our temperament, based on our life's experiences, based on the way we are wired and the way we are cultured. We have different desires. That is why there is no 2 marriages that are the same, because the people in those marriages, they are different with different desire, different intention, as different expectations as far as the marriage is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma. So my question now is I want us to interrogate this question. Do you think romance is one of the things a woman wants in marriage? Romance.
Yes, so haha. Women really want romance in their marriage, because let's oftentimes men are more sexually active. Oh, permit me to use that word. And when you see the dimension, if you see women now coming up sexually, is because of a lot of training, a lot of working on ourselves to be sexual.
Hello, we lost you again. Okay,
Hello.
we can hear you, ma.
Okay, so women desire romance, but oftentimes men want sex. Especially, let me use the African man. The African man wants sex. That is why when it comes to sexual intimacy between husband and wife, you will see the man just want to enter and go out, but the woman wants to be played with, wants to be, shown affection, which is very, very important. Romance is important to wives, and I pray that God will help our husbands to really
Thank
be
you.
intentional as far as that
Thank
is
you.
concerned. Thank you.
Still on that question, right? So what would you say about some men? They have this stance and they believe that romance is not part of an African culture. That an African culture, when you talk about romance, a man being romantic, that is not part of African culture. How do you demystify this? And what would you call romance? Is
Okay.
romance so both of us are going out, he opens the door for me to enter first. He buys me flower every morning. He wakes me up with a kiss, breakfast in bed. Would you say that is romance? And
Romance.
if that is
Okay.
not romance, what is romance? And how do we
Okay.
demystify this from the African husbands?
Okay. Romance actually is showing genuine care, showing genuine affection. When I look,
You are muted.
okay, it's a mistake. Sorry. Looking at love, looking at First Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. One of the characteristics of love is kindness. The Bible says love is kind. The act of kindness to your wife is romance. Be intentional in showing to her that you value her. It's because of that, you know, a tender love, tender desire towards her, that makes you to do things, that makes you to go the extra way, like pampering, like showing that you love her, touching, playing. It's just creating the atmosphere, the right atmosphere, that shows to your wife that you care, that shows to your wife that you value. For instance, helping your wife doing out, I mean, for instance, you have a wife and she needs a help at home to do chores. That's part of romance. That's why she can come and say, oh, you did this for me, and she feels so loved. But the African man is an issue of mindset. The African man believes that showing those care makes him little, makes him look like a weak person, but that is not it. It is a mindset, it is our culture. When you look at the word culture, for instance, when you go to hospital and a test is want to be run, they take a sample and they allow it to pass through a certain condition, they culture it, they allow it to grow. So there are beliefs, there are mindset, there are habits that we are permitted, that we have cultivated. But as believers, we must be intentional to know what makes marriage work. Marriage is not African. Marriage is from God. And He expects us to treat each other well, to be kind, to be generous, to be tender. You can look at the Bible when they went to look for a wife for Isaac. No, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't that time. There was a time that Isaac also lied that Rebecca was not his wife, but the Bible says that the king saw him sporting. That shows they were playing. The African man will say play. What is the meaning of that? If you tell your husband, sweetheart, I love you, the next thing you say, when did we start that? It's a mindset. I must be willing, the African man must be willing to make that change. But I think that our African husband, they are changing. To me, I feel a Christian man should be more of a spiritual husband than an African husband, especially where the African culture contradicts the biblical culture. The Lord will help us.
Thank you very much. So the key to romance in marriage is kindness. When you are kind and you love your wife and your love goes beyond mouth, you can see it in what you do, then that is romance. I love someone says the African man feels that romance is flirtatious. Okay, so we're going to round up very quickly with two questions. We'll just take both together. Somebody,
Oh,
Ma, go
sorry,
ahead.
that comment that somebody made, I want to pick it that the African man thinks that romance is flirtatious. Do you know it's one of the things that I even put that Jordan, flirt with your wife. It's not a sin. Even to be flirtatious in marriage is the right thing. Is to play, to show, it's just to create the other atmosphere of romance, atmosphere of love, atmosphere of tenderness. So I believe it's not a sin to even flirt with each other when you are married. You are going at home, your wife is standing, you can touch her in some sensitive place. I hope I'm safe. I believe majority of people here are married, so that you won't think I'm saying some things. So it's not a sin for an African person, a Christian man, to touch his wife, to play, to be flirtatious, even in marriage, is a good thing. I think it's even spiritual.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much. I believe that flirtatious in marriage is telling the other party that I still desire you.
Yes,
That
yes.
you're still desirable to me, and I think it's one of the things that keeps romance going in marriage, and we should be intentional about it. So the question here is, why do women love bad guys? Somebody is asking. I believe a man is asking this question. um, I believe that you would have seen some of the trends today where some of the Christian, so-called Christian sisters, they want their husband to have a bit of bad boy kind of quality while still being spiritual. So I believe that's the perspective that this person is asking. Why do women love bad guys? That will be the first question. The second question is to give us your final word of encouragement that you have for us today so that we can close for the day. Thank you very much.
Okay, for somebody to say why do women love bad guys, I believe it stem also from the issue that we began to see that a lot of spiritual men, so to say, or let me say a lot of Christian men, they are not romantic. So when those ladies now see that I can't play with my husband, we can't kiss, you can't touch me, I can't hug you in the public, you can't hold my hands. So they feel the bad guys to them. So those things is for the bad boys, the bad guys. And it's because the good guys also, they are not doing the right thing. So
Hmm.
yes, so there is this belief system that those actions are only meant to be done by bad guys. And who are the bad guys? Guys that are not godly. It's because the godly guys are also missing it. And my people perish for lack of knowledge. So the good guys also should learn to be romantic. So because it comes to a point that somebody just look at it also, is marriage just about prayer, go to church, fasting, we just have sex that you cannot show that you enjoy it, sex that you cannot tickle your husband, you can't play, you can't be, there are sometimes, permit me, I sit at certain tables with my husband and people are there under the table and we are using our legs to play. It's between us, you won't know. And somebody will say, "Ah, shebi you are pastor." It's our marriage. You just create the atmosphere to just shows that okay, we still desire each other. That flame is still there, and we must be intentional to keep the flame. So good girls want good stuff from good guys. It's because the good guys are not doing what they actually ought to do. The Lord will help us in Jesus' name. Let
Amen.
me my parting words here. If there is one thing that I would like to share with us, is the fact that marriage, we all know that marriage is God's idea, and God did not make mistake. In the beginning, he said it is not good for the man to be alone. He wanted it to be good for the man. So when we get into marriage and it's like instead of being good, we are becoming bitter, it does not have to do with God. It lies in your hand, it lies in my hand. Every one of us, the two of us, we are combinations of strengths and weaknesses. There is amazing things when you think deeply about marriage, you see that God is a beautiful God. When he says in Genesis, say it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make an help meet for him. He didn't say help mate, it's help meet. That is why when he was going to make the help meet, he did not bring another man. He brought somebody that was going to complement what somebody lacked, the other supplies. Let me give you this illustration. I believe every one of us in our houses, we have socket and plug. The socket must be ready to receive the plug, and the plug must be willing to enter the socket. And that forms a synergy. And I just want to encourage us that in our marriage, we should realize that we are different, but that our diversity, our difference ought to be our strength. But we are allowing the enemy to take advantage of it, to use it against us. Please, let's be intentional about our marriage. It can work. If there is anything I want to beg every one of us, especially those of us that are Christian, that may you truly be a Christian in your marriage. When the
Yeah.
Bible says, may we truly be Christians in our marriages. May we reflect Christ in the way we relate with each other in our marriages. When we can do that, and when we are talking about being Christian, it's just about yieldedness to God, obeying his instruction. The world might make it look as if we are foolish, but that is where our strength is. Remember, your husband is different from you, your wife is different from you. But the intention of God is that what you lack, the other supplies, and what the other lack, you also supplies. The last word I'm going to say tonight is that don't use your strength that is meant to help your spouse to be what you will use to judge his or her weakness. Every
Hmm.
time, yeah, because you can look like it. Oh, let me say this. Do you know oftentimes when you see an outspoken man, you are likely to see an introverted wife? It's a mystery. And oftentimes it is that thing that attracts us together. Or when you get into a gathering, you're the guy that talks, you talk a lot, and you just see this lady quiet, unassuming, and you're attracted to her. Mysteriously, when we get into marriage after 5 years, the same thing that brought us together is often the things that bring division. You begin
Hmm.
to hear your wife say, "Oh, you talk too much." When you first saw him, it was his talkativeness that attracted you.
Hmm.
Somebody has built that culture over 30 years, and you now want to change that person in 1 year. The Lord will help us. And
Amen.
this will be the last thing. Let's be willing to change. Those that can marry are those that can make changes. May we not be hearers alone deceiving ourselves, but be
Hmm.
intentional to say this year, these are the things I need to do, these are the things I need to do, and the Lord will help us in Jesus' name. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Mrs., for that great parting words. I believe that we have heard her, we have received those words, and those words will surely become flesh in our lives in Jesus' name. So, the take home today is that together we can make it work through
That's right.
understanding, hard work, through communication, regular communication, and through intentionality. By being intentional to understand the needs of your spouse, by being intentional to try to meet and satisfy the needs of your spouse, and by being intentional in keeping the fire and the romance in your marriage, constant and alive, we can make it work. And remember that we are different. We have different personalities, we have different needs because usually opposite attracts. And so
That's right.
you must remember that my spouse is different from me, I'm different from my spouse. And with those differences, like she has said, those should form our synergy. We should build on each other's strength. We should leverage on each other's strength so that together we can serve God's purpose, win our marriage, and through our marriage. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining tonight. And in particularly, I want to thank Reverend Mrs. for
Thank
accepting to be on the show with us tonight. Thank you for your words of wisdom and thank you for being a great blessing to us. I believe each of us have heard or learned one thing or the other from the talk tonight. Thank you so much, Reverend Mrs. We appreciate you. Thank you for
thank
accepting to be with us. And we're praying
thank
God's blessing over you and over all that are yours. God bless you. And everyone have a great night and see you at the next episode of Chat with PMK. Good night
thank
and God bless you. Bye.
you.